I'm not turning back. No way do I leave you. Jesus says, no, you'll deny me. No, man, even if I have to die, I'm in. I will not desert you. I will die for you, Jesus. I am in. He's praying up in the garden. Disciples have joined him. And as they pray, the soldiers come. And as the soldiers get there, Peter steps up, whips out a sword, says, I told you I'm in, and takes a swing. Cuts off the ear of one of the guys that are coming to arrest him. And you see Peter going, I'm all in. And Jesus says, no. Put the sword away. In a nutshell, Jesus says, you know what? I'm not asking you to die for me. I'm not asking you to do that. You know what? I'm asking you to live in this moment, not just to fight for me. Are you willing to go do what I'm about to do? You need to put down your sword. You're willing to be arrested? You're willing to face the humiliation and torture I'm about ready to go through? That's what I need you to do. And you know what it says that Peter and all the disciples did at that point? They leave. I'm out. No chance. Well, how do you do on that whole, you know what, but I'll never forsake you. I'm never going to disown you. I'm never going to deny you, Jesus. So Peter starts following him. I want to see where they're taking him. I'm in. I'm still with you, Jesus. I know I just ran and all, but I'm still going to, I'm in. I'm following right behind you. As he enters in, he starts warming his hands over fire. So he says, I know you. You're one of the guys that was with Jesus. No, that wasn't me. No, I'm sure it was you. You even got the accents all those other guys have. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sure it's you. You're lying. And Peter says he swears and curses and says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know this Jesus. And it says at that point, the rooster crows, and one of the Gospels tells us he meets eyes with Jesus. And you have Peter going, I'm out. And he walks back outside, and it says he just cries. I'm out. Have you ever been there? How many of you have been in several times? I have. Jesus, you know what? I'm all in. I'm ready to step out of the boat. I'm ready to go. Use me. I will do some miraculous things, man. You just use me. I'll do whatever you say. You tell me to walk on water, I'm going to walk on water. I'm getting out of the boat. And you know what? I take a few steps, change some of my friends, clean up some of those bad habits I have. I start reading my Bible every day. I'm praying. And then suddenly, some winds and some rains and some waves kick up. And I find myself going, you know what? On second thought, I'm out. Didn't plan on this. Jesus tells the story, and we have a little song about it we sang as a little kid, about the wise man and the foolish man. One builds his house, wise man builds it on rock, foolish man builds it on sand. And when the winds come and the waves rise and the floods come, what happened to the guy on rock? Stands. The guy in the sand, his house falls. Now, when we talk about that story, a lot of times we focus on the fact that the guy who builds on rock, his house stands. The guy who builds on sand, his house falls apart. But I want to concentrate on something else here. There's something that they both have in common. They both are hit by rains and floods and storms. You can build on the rock, you can build on the sand, but the one thing you're going to have in common is the storms are still coming. The storms are still coming. It's still going to be rough. You're still going to get hit. There's still going to be problems. And I don't know if we're ever fully prepared for the reality of that. I think too often we think, you know what? I'm all in. I'm going to walk on water. I'm heading for Jesus. But then the winds and the rains and the pressure kicks in, and I want to be popular. And man, I've got all this stuff. I don't want to put that on the table. And all that stuff hurts. And you know what? When they start hitting, I don't see Jesus anymore. I start seeing the real world. I start seeing those things that hurt and the stuff I don't understand. I start seeing the allure of wealth and popularity, the confusion and the pain of broken relationships and parents breaking up and the boyfriend-girlfriend thing getting all messed up and my relationships with others. And I see all those storms, and before you know it, I'm out. I'm out. I won't do this anymore. It's not worth it. I didn't know that was coming. Or how many times have you said, you know what, I'm in, I'm never going to leave you, I'll fight for you, I will let everyone know I'm a follower of Jesus. When I go home from Statewide this year, I'm telling everybody. Nothing's going to stop me, I'm going to tell everyone. And I get home, and you look, and you find out, oh, you know what, he's not going to ask me to fight. What he's actually going to ask me to do is turn the other cheek. He's going to ask me to love that person that just gives me the hardest time. It's going to ask me to keep my mouth closed when people start making fun of me. It's going to ask me to change the people I hang out with. It's going to ask me to stop going to some of the places I go. And you get chance after chance to stand up and say, I know Jesus. I'm in. I know Jesus. And we stand back and we say, I hope somebody else does that. You know what? I didn't know it was going to be this tough. I didn't know that was going to happen. And instead, I stand quietly by, or I go to that party, or I watch that movie, and I just try to blend in and hope no one notices that I was with Jesus. I'm out. How many of you have been there at some point? I think we've all been there at some time. You know what? There's good news then. Because we've all been there, and we'll all be there again, but here's the good news, and that's this. The story isn't over. It doesn't have to end there. It doesn't have to end with you backing away from the table, with Jesus saying, are you all in, and you turning around and walking away. It doesn't have to end there with you going, I'm going to pick popularity over my relation with Jesus. Doesn't have to end there. It's soon after Jesus is resurrected, and Peter and some of the disciples are sitting on the beach having breakfast with Jesus. And Jesus pulls Peter aside and says, do you love me? You know I do. Do you love me? You know I do. Do you love me? You know I do. And he says, feed my sheep. And there's something that follows after that. There's a little phrase that Jesus says. It's so important. At the end of that little section, Jesus says this, follow me. You know, last time he said follow me to Peter? When he called him to be a disciple. When the first time Peter said, I'm all in. And Jesus says, you know what? I'm erasing all those past mistakes. I'm erasing all those times where we know, man, that boat thing, you know what? I know. You know those times you denied me 3 times? I know. But here's the deal. Let's start over. I love you. I've just died for you. Let's start over. Here we go again. Are you all in? Follow me. Let me tell you of Peter's life from that point on. We don't see him walk on water again, but right before that story I just told you, Jesus is seen on the beach when they're out there fishing and it's after the resurrection. Peter doesn't say, is that you, Lord? Can I walk on water? Anybody know what Peter does at that point? It says he dives off the boat and starts swimming for shore. I don't need to walk on water anymore. There's Jesus, I'm going. I don't care if I'm walking on water, if I've got to swim. I don't care what it takes. I'm getting to him. I'm going. Later on, we find out he speaks in languages he'd never learned. He starts healing people. He heals so many that are sick that Luke tells us in Acts, people would bring people out and they would try to lay them in front of where they thought Peter was going to walk so that when Peter walked by, his shadow would fall on them and they were hoping they would be healed just from his shadow passing by. Is he willing to admit that he knows Jesus now? Well, the first sermon we have recorded, he preaches to all these people gathered. 3,000 people accept Christ that day because Peter gets up and says, I know Jesus. I'm in.